You were in a war zone, so what you do is you go in and put old Occam's razor in there, and you eliminate to the lowest denominator. UFOs can exist. Let me rephrase that. UFOs is not a good term. Interplanetary conveyances cannot exist.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be something very earthly. NSA went ahead and would call UFOs UFOs when we were monitoring communications with the Soviet Union. But they always qualified that in hopes that with the initiation of the Sunshine Act, later to become the Freedom of Information Act, that they would not be subject to those acts by saying 7 UFOs being reported by such and such location and site. But when they'd say 7 UFOs, in parentheses, they would put probably balloons. Disregard the fact that in the one document I'm talking about, 7 UFOs traveling at 1,700 miles an hour. Balloons can't do that.
Right.
I always got bemused at that because even as a kid, I'd get bemused when people would say, I don't believe in ghosts. However, this happened.
Sure.
You tell a perfectly good ghost story. With me, I very early on knew that to deny the reality of UFOs and other phenomena that occurs would be denying myself.
So as a communicator, you're definitely...
You don't always tell the others what's going on. Remember I told you feel it?
You feel, yes, you feel what they feel, and they feel what you feel.
Mm-hmm. And
so,
you don't always address it, because one of the things that you may feel like, if they're saying that they are a guest, if our military is saying, well, this is one of our guests, they're not treating that entity as a guest. And what's happening is that you are feeling what that entity is feeling.
uh-huh.
And one situation, I even helped one of them escape, and that right there was not telling them everything that was being said.
I'm curious, what went on when you dealt with that? Was it, first of all, what kind of an entity was it? And I understand that they're being held prisoner, but how was it that you were able, and in fact, Dan Bursch talks about the same thing.
Well, I don't know whether it was a Stargate or what, but in order on the inside where we had this entity, if we were to, and there's a tape that talks about this, which gives a whole lot more detail, but we went ahead, and if they were to try to extract this entity from inside where we were at, then there would have been people killed. And this entity would not accept that. And you could feel you could feel what it felt. That's the best way to put it. And I'm trying to tell this without going into any real certain details. But I convinced the person that I always called the Colonel, and all throughout that's what I always called him. We went ahead, and I said, he needs to show me something, but everybody has to be cleared from here. It's just got to be me and him. And everybody went ahead, left. There was one Spec 5 that stayed there to help me, and I said, we've got to cut this screen fence back here, or the storm fence, and we can get in trouble for that. I says, yeah, I know, that's why I'm asking you to just drop off the bolt cutters and then beat feet. Well, he didn't. He went ahead and he cut the wires for me, and we got the entity outside. By the time they found out that we had the entity outside the perimeter, they went ahead and was very upset, and now they were even to the point where they even tried to shoot the entity, but the entity was now in a position where it was a bright, bright, bright light that came down, and I didn't even get to see the craft, and maybe it was because I just wasn't looking. But all of a sudden, this entity was there, then it wasn't. Then, of course, the guy I always called the colonel, he went ahead and told me, well, I could be court-martialed. Then, well, we're going to overlook it this time, but don't let that happen again. And, of course, I was chastising him. If they're supposed to be our guests, why were we treating them cruel and treating them as prisoners? As a matter of fact, even worse than prisoners. I have never seen either movie of the Manchurian Candidate.
Okay.
And the one thing that we had identified by the time I got out, 57 different species. And they were affectionately called the Heinz 57. I understand there's some phrase in one of those movies about that. Gee, I'd love to say there's only 2 or 3 races, or only 4 or 5, or even 1. I'd love to say that. But with what I know, if I change anything that I do know, then it's not reality. It's just going ahead saying things that people want to hear.
Well, why would you say you would want to say there was only 1 or 2?
Oh, well, some people, well, we could find your story more believable if you could say.
I see.
And, gee, can't this entity be gray because it'd be more believable? What do you want, a story that's believable, or do you want the truth? Now, the truth may not fit what you believe, but it's the truth as I know it. And with it being the truth as I know it, that's all I can tell.
So have you ever, I'm going to assume they must photograph these beings, right?
There's photographs.
Okay. And what about you? Do you ever draw them? Do you have drawings of them?
Yeah, I got some drawings.
And have you distributed?
No.
Are you able, at liberty, to give them out at all, or show them?
Some I have and some I haven't.
And are you familiar with underground bases?
And the technology that goes along with it.
Okay. And so I'm going to assume you've been to underground bases yourself.
Not by choice.
Not by choice. That's believable. But have you also seen, say, reptilians, what's called, in the UFO community,
subspecies
reptilians?
That we call reptilian, yes.
And are you able to communicate with them telepathically?
They can communicate with you.
Okay.
It's hard to explain. You can't keep secrets.
Sure.
And the other thing I'd remind everyone is the program is geared and set up to where you only know what you have a need to know. And a lot of times you know more than what you're supposed to know. But you don't know everything.
Sure.
And I reiterate, anybody that tells you that they know everything is a liar. It's not true.
Do you have any special alien friends that have remained with you throughout, that are with you today, communicating?
I mentioned one.
I'm sorry?
I mentioned one.
One. Okay, that would be Korona?
Correct.
Okay. And Korona is, do you know what planet he's from?
Mm-mm.
You don't? Okay.
I know it's about 100 light years away from here, because I always use that as an example.
Okay.
Real time, from the time they leave, and there's a little nice thing about that, from the time they leave their home planet, which is in a star system about 100 light years from planet Earth, in real-time travel, it's an hour and 40 minutes.
That's
from
marvelous.
the time they leave and arrive here.
What kind of craft do they use? Do they teleport through space, or do they actually take a craft? Because not all of them.
No, it's a craft.
If it's a craft.
Yeah, they're really traveling.
Okay.
But it's through a traversable, what we call a traversable wormhole.
Now, have you ever gone with them?
To the best of my knowledge, no. And the reason I state that, I can remember seeing the stars, that I've never seen them like that anywhere on Earth. But to the best of my knowledge, no.
So you don't have conscious memory, is what you mean?
Right.
Of these incidents, but you could have.
Oh, well, there's been some things really scary that's happened in my life.